This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. So I got a gypsy jazz gig this evening and I need to get practicing to that, but I got slightly distracted by something and I thought it was maybe worth talking about, given that on this channel I tried to be frank and honest about sort of some of the things that I guess some other people don't talk about too much. Things like gear acquisition syndrome, gas, my own experiences with it and how, you know, my thoughts on some of this may have changed. So I think a lot of YouTube generally is the gear stuff is going to be focused on a large portion of kind of sponsored content, or, you know, videos where at least gear has been provided for free. And for example, that Boss DS1 Wazza that you saw me using this week was provided for free. And that's not actually how the real world works for most people, is it? And that's what I try to keep in mind when I'm making sort of videos, and I kind of want it generally to be the case that I'm following genuine interests. I find it much easier to make a video about something that I'm actually genuinely interested in, or something that I've purchased myself. Of course, for other people there are different sort of sets of motivations, and for some people their living is generated in a slightly different way, and so there's not necessarily a judgment. You know, if people are making sponsored videos and doing demos for money, and that's the main thrust of their living, that's also fine. It's just not necessarily what I'm super interested in general, at the moment anyway, at some point, you know. But here's the point: most, I think, of the people that watch these videos, and certainly myself as well, we kind of have to make decisions around buying gear, and I think that is more what I feel like I'm interested in, is like the gear making decision thing. And it's coming up to the time of year where I think it's most obvious that there's like a difference between what is sold to us and what we actually need, and this sort of thing, right? So this Black Friday thing comes from America and has something to do with Thanksgiving, right? But it's become this thing where certain retailers around the world, I think, drop prices, and the idea being that you then buy some stuff, right? Now, I can't think of a single successful purchase that I made during a Black Friday, and that was kind of what I was thinking about, because I can remember there was one guitar that I bought, a D'Angelico, which looked quite odd. I think the Ludlow, it might have been called. I bought that because it was half price. And here's the kicker about this. So Black Friday is a way, I think, you could understand it in this way at least, to make something that was previously not attractive to you attractive by heavily discounting it, right? And so that might be one way to sort of spin this lens on Black Friday, because I know for me, when I see a deal, the kind of psychological thing of it is, well, that's so much cheaper than it would have been any other time. I need to buy that, otherwise I'm missing out on this deal. Another way that you can kind of process that, though, is not a bargain if you wouldn't have bought it anyway. So that's what I'm trying to kind of remain with this tunnel vision around, right? Because I don't have loads of spare cash to spend at the moment. There are two things that I need to get probably. One is a shed, and one might be a laptop for doing stuff downstairs on. possibly. So those are the two things that I am actually keeping my eye out for. Anything else is probably a distraction, and there's a tax bill coming up in January which should be concentrated on, and there's also something else happening in January that some of you may know about, some of you may not, but it's a bit of a big life-changing thing, as well as, you know, ongoing sorts of bills and that sort of thing. So those are the things to bear in mind, like a shed, super musically boring, and a laptop possibly for getting this stuff done downstairs if I need to. One thing that came up today, there was a Taylor AD17 at Thomann, and it's an incredible 46% off. Now, this to me, actually, I nearly found myself suckered in by this. I'm not saying suckered in because I'm sure it's a great guitar, and this is the point, like, guitars in general, I think, sell themselves, hopefully, because by the time they actually get made, in theory, a lot of the companies, like whether it's Fender, Taylor, Yamaha, all these people do a load and load of market research, a load of prototyping and all this sort of stuff, so that hopefully by the time the guitar actually gets made and is put in shops, presumably it will be attractive to a bunch of people, and particularly if they get it in front of enough people via YouTube videos and stuff. And this is why you see companies like Fender giving out £2,000 guitars to YouTube channels, because most of them won't necessarily discuss explicit flaws, and in any case, if you get them out to enough sort of places, you kind of saturate people's YouTube experience, and then they can, you know, that starts to create, whether subconsciously or consciously, like a little bit of demand for a thing. But for me, the Taylor AD17 is not something I'd ever heard of, so this is the case where it's literally, I wasn't in the market for an acoustic guitar, and I'd never heard of the Taylor AD17 until now, so I'd suggest that maybe some part of the marketing campaign didn't really pay off, and so there's a surplus of these guitars sat in a warehouse in Germany somewhere, to the point enough that they could discount these by half, and that's how it is then marketed to me. This is an incredible deal, although you didn't need it, and probably if it was at any other price, you know, you wouldn't have even considered it. So I'm sure those are really good guitars. Let me know in the comments if they are. By the way, I think they were made as like a sort of budget-ish, but US made Taylor, sort of like the PRS S2. They've got like a eucalyptus fingerboard, some other woods, Ovanga coal, is that how you say that? So those were my kind of, my thoughts, like how you can avoid getting trapped up in this. Maybe think carefully about what it is that you're actually getting, because people ask me often, like, is there something that you're wanting to try? And oftentimes the answer is actually no. Like, there's nothing explicitly on the gear list that I need, so I should be able to avoid some of this stuff, right? There's one, the Sire S3, I wanted to do a demo of, but again, I feel like at this time when I need to actually get a shed, a laptop, and I've got a tax bill looming, I feel like now is probably not the right time to actually make frivolous purchases. I don't know if you feel similarly at the moment. That's just where I'm at. So I'm trying to be a bit careful, and so that's why I've got it in a cart, but I managed to back out. So yeah, I'm trying to stay resolute that I'm looking for sheds, I'm looking for a laptop. As sexy as a Taylor acoustic guitar could be, I don't need another acoustic guitar. I just saw that it was a deal, right? Have any of you found something that you really wanted in a Black Friday deal, by the way? Because for sure, there must be some people out there that have been waiting for a Taylor AD17 for a while, and now this comes up, you know, 46% off. Wow. You know, if you were one of those people, then of course, like, that makes total sense. But if you weren't, like me, then you're just sort of buying a thing for the sake of it. And I can't remember any Black Friday purchase that I've made that actually stuck, because I was just making decisions based on the fear of missing out on a deal rather than actually wanting that piece of gear. Are you the same? Are you different? Do you have any other thoughts on that? How do you navigate the sort of Black Friday sales? Yeah, that for me, I think, just really pay attention to what it is that you actually want, and then think, is this that? And if not, then you're really only probably psychologically thinking that it's a deal that will be gone at some point. So you don't want to miss out on that. But it's not a bargain if it wasn't something that you already wanted, is it? I don't know. How does it work for you? How's gas going? Yeah, things that I've tried recently that were in this sort of gassy phase. The Chase Bliss Automaton, I had wanted to demo one of those for a while anyway. That Meris LVX, which again is very expensive. I had wanted to try the Keeley Halo, and I'm quite glad I did, because that gave me some interesting things to try. But I think I'm now at a point again where it's like, okay, let's just back off and stop buying stuff for a while and just, you know, make do with what I've already got. So don't go buying a Taylor.